Squawk squawk, fellow sorrowers. I am going to do a little bit of shadow work for you all. For those of you that don't know what the term means, shadow work is releasing and depleting your regrets, your mistakes, your shame, your blame, your faults, your flaws, it's, or at least it should be, brutal honesty. And as I've said to you all from the first video I ever made, I will never lie to you, and I never have. I've also mentioned before that I was practically a pathological liar for most of my life, so it takes a lot for me to know that I'm not. You don't know that, I get that, but hopefully you believe me. Yeah, I mean, true shadow work would be doing something. It comes from empathy, like the term shadow work, or what is it? There's a specific, particular term for it. I believe it's what is it? It's like the late. It's not this, but it's like the late night shadow of the soul. What is it? Doesn't matter. The point is what it does. If done right, it should come from empathy. It's the power of confession, and it works better in what you do rather than in what you say, but hopefully what I'm saying is something also that I'm doing for you, and it is for me, which it shouldn't be, which is why I say it's not pure shadow work. It should be 100% selfless, which is where and why it's born and birthed from empathy. Okay, and I say it's more in what you do, because it's the actions that you choose to do for others. They don't even need to know that you've done it. It works better if they don't. But when you take it upon yourself to commit benevolent deeds of selflessness that don't reward you, that's pure shadow work. And ironically, it's also what the primary teaching of Jesus was. So the best of my abilities to stay true to actions based on shadow work is to speak to you. If I could reach into the screen that you're watching and listening to me on, I would, and I would do whatever I could to help you and to heal you from your harm and your hurt. I really, honestly, truly would, if I could. So hopefully this will suffice. I'm going to share a few things with you that not many know, and I'm doing it in the hope that it will show you that you can do the same. the things I'm going to share with you are based on exactly what I said. My regrets, my mistakes, my shame, my blame, my traumas and my faults and my flaws. And I know that all that sounds very heavy, very dark, perhaps, very self-destructive maybe, but it really isn't. And the reason that it may come across that way is exactly why it's called shadow work, because you're working on your shadow. Okay, the word in itself, shadow, we naturally relate with the dark side, right? And then we naturally relate the dark side with evil, which most of the time you should, because it's about right. But not in this context. The shadow, all it really means, when used the right way, because it can become destructive to others, self-destructive to yourself if used the wrong way. To completely give yourself over to it is to completely lose control, and that's not what it's about. They shouldn't even call it shadow work, they should call it honesty work, because that's what it is. As I say, it's I'd be lying rather than telling the truth, and I told you I will never lie to you. If I was to say that I won't benefit from this, I will, because I'll be getting it off my chest, I'll be venting. But hopefully it will benefit you more, and in that sense it'll be more of a selfless act rather than a selfish act. Okay, so the secondary subject under the primary being shadow work, which I want this video to be about, is what it means to be a man, to be male, to be masculine. Okay, now I'd be happy to cover what it is to be a woman, to be female, and to be feminine, and I will do my best to do that also, but of course it's going to be shorter and with less relation due to the obvious. So I'll get started without further ado. Okay, first and foremost, and I have said this before in previous videos, but I feel it's important enough to mention again, to all you men, all you males with your masculinity, I want you to look me right in the fucking eyes when I say this, because I'm not saying this because it's my opinion, which it usually would be. I don't like to state facts, because all facts are based on opinion, but I believe this one to be so. Okay, men, gentlemen, brothers, there is absolutely nothing wrong, weak, or demasculating in crying. Okay, there is nothing inadequate for a man to show their emotions. I use crying because it's the main taboo, isn't it? Oh, if you're a true man, you'd hold your tears back. Yeah, man up. You notice most of the time in your life, when you've had someone tell you to man up, have you noticed it's a woman? Very rarely a man. I always thought that was interesting, because that's not that's not a smite or a slight to women. It really isn't, because I can throw it the other way too. How often do you hear a man or a woman say to a woman, "Woman up, get yourself together, woman up"? You don't hear it, do you? It's only man up, and it's predominantly, majority of the time, a woman that will tell a man to man up. Don't you think that's odd? They're a woman. They're female. How would they know what it takes to man up, right? Us men, unfortunately, have been brought up in an indoctrination and a programming that is weak for us to show our emotions. Yeah? No. Oh no, 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 no. Really consider this, right? Because, and this is my opinion, but I'd imagine you'd agree. Maybe I'm wrong. You tell me if I'm right. Is not the strongest thing that a man can do in terms and regards of their emotion but to display it? Because to me, the weakest fucking thing a man can do would be to hold it in. Hold it in. You're not only lying to whoever it is in your proximity, in your company, in your presence, but you're lying to yourself. You want to fucking cry your eyes out, mate? Do it. Lay it out. That's how you feel, right? So, express how you feel. Do you see where I'm coming from? Do you see where I'm going to? Why would you hold that in? Why does that make you a wimp, a pussy, to hold in how you feel? Surely the strength and the courage would come from letting it out and not giving a fuck who saw it, who witnessed it. You see what they've done to us? You see that? There is nothing weak about a man letting their emotions out, especially when it comes to sorrow. Let it out. That's a man. In my opinion, that's a man. That's a warrior. That's a soldier. Yeah? So that's first and foremost. Don't ever let anyone fucking tell you that it's weak for a man to cry. It's weak for you to hold it in. Yeah? Let's move on. Okay. I, again, may have mentioned this before, but my father passed away when I was 5. He died of cancer, and he died alone, and that's how he wanted it. He sat back in his armchair in his flat, and he passed away through the night, and he knew it was going to happen too. and me and my mother turned up in the morning. They'd split up because he knew he was dying and he didn't want her or I to witness his deterioration, let alone his death. So he split up with her, and I'd stay with my mum for a few days, then I'd go and stay with him. Lived in East London at the time. Yeah, and we knocked on the door in the morning and no answer. There for an hour, my mum's banging on the door. She knew what had happened. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. Yeah, police turned up and all that, and they told my mum, and then my mum told me. And she said, your dad's gone to heaven. And I can remember thinking, well, if he's gone to heaven, then, but I didn't associate that with death. It's like, it'd be the same as, he's gone to the pub. So I knew he weren't alive. Like, I knew he weren't. I knew something had changed, but I was too young to understand that I'd never see him again. And there's a reason I'm going into this. I'm sorry, I know it's a bit morbid, but I'm just trying to be honest and express this side of it. My mum was obviously in such emotional pain. She went to the pub. And I can remember walking through all these people and looking for him and thinking he was there somewhere. I didn't go to his funeral either. That was a choice that my mum and my family chose for me. I was very young, so it's probably for the best. At the same time, I never got to say goodbye, so that stuck with me. So to the point, the second point to the first I just made, this is what I'm getting at. So I grew up without a father, right? I'm sure women will understand this too. I hope this doesn't come across sexist. I'm sure women understand this just as much. If you're human, you're going to understand it, right? If you've got a heart in your chest and a brain in your head, you're going to understand it. So I had to. The point being, I had to learn what it was to be a man without having any kind of standard to match or example to follow, you see. So that brings me probably uncomfortably for you, but hopefully you'll see where I'm going with this. It put me in a position where I never truly knew if I was a man, or at least the man that I could have been by having a father, to base my masculinity upon. So, the second point, again, look into my eyes, men. Whether you grew up with a father that you couldn't stand, whether you grew up without a father who ran away, or whether, like me, you grew up without a father. See the difference there? Because you can have, and it's mothers as well as fathers, you can have a parent that ran away and therefore, at least by proxy, didn't love you. But then you can also have a parent that passed away but truly did love you. So I always found and felt and thought that I was lucky for that, at least, right? But for all of you that haven't had a father figure to base your masculinity on, I commend you so much. I salute you. Because it's not fucking easy, is it? But there's your secondary point. You don't need that basis to become a man. If anything, it makes you more of a man, because you have to follow your own path and you have to work out what that truly means to become one. You see? If you have that basis, it does not mean that you will become the man you want to be, let alone a good man. You are stronger than you realise if you happen to have that same disposition that I had. You may have not felt it for most of your life, but if you really take a good look at yourself in the mirror, considering that factor, you'll see that your reflection is your own. It's not your father's, or for you women, it's not your mother's. Do you see where I'm going? There's nothing wrong with following in their footsteps, looking up to them, being inspired by them, but you are your own person. I mention this because from the loss of my father, I would do things that I knew he did because it made me feel close to him, where I never had that closure. Whether it be he was a smoker, he was a drinker, so I'd do that not because I enjoyed it, not because I was addicted. There was an addiction. It was the addiction of feeling close to him, where I felt absent from being without him. You see? So there's your second point. Okay, you're your own man. You've become it by yourself and through yourself. Okay? Third point. True men, real men, they don't gang up on other men. They don't kick other men when they're down. They don't bring weapons to a fight with another man. And more than anything else, and this is a very simple one, they don't work in offence with other men. They work in defence. Your defence is more powerful than your offence, always. Always. I'm pacifistic. I don't work through violence unless I have no choice. And right there, therein lies defence, right? Because you have no choice. To me, that's one of the lowest forms of a male. Not a man, because they're not, but a male, because it's essentially bullying. I've never bullied anyone, and if you have, that doesn't make you a malevolent person. It may be why you're so against it now. I know I am. As I say, I've never bullied anyone, but some of the sins I've committed in my past, I always think, well, if I hadn't committed them, I might commit them now. You know what I'm saying? Sins, mistakes, as I said, regrets, traumas, shame, blame. These things happen for a reason. And to know that you felt shame and blame doesn't mean that you have to continue to feel shame and blame for them regrets and mistakes. It took me a long time to realise that all the time that you haven't forgiven yourself, you're so much more capable of committing them same sins, regrets, mistakes. Your shame and your blame makes you feel worthless. Yeah? You've got to learn to forgive yourself. Doesn't make whatever you did alright. You don't have to agree with it. You have to understand what you did then is not what you would do now. Who you was then is not who you are now. What you was then is not what you are now. You know? You hold on to that shit, learn from it, but if you hold on to it, if you dwell on it, it hasn't left, you know? And it won't leave until you accept that what you did so that you wouldn't do it again. That doesn't make it alright that you did it. But if you hadn't have done it, how the fuck would you know how much you would never ever do it again now? You see? That's shadow work. You know? Okay, I'm gonna share something with you all that's very hard for me to talk about, but I trust you all and I love you all, and more than anything else I respect you all. And notice that I told you that I respect you all after I told you that I love you all, because it's that respect that allows me to feel that I can share it. The love does, but the love makes me hesitate, see? Because you don't want to hurt the ones you love, right? I don't want to hurt you with what I want to share, in the sense of well, lower your vibration, I suppose. But respect is different. My respect for you gives me the confidence to share it and know that you will empathise. Give me one moment. Okay, so again, based on my opinion, my experience, because I've had to learn it all myself, the loudest one really is the weakest one. Yeah? All this giving it the big un, all it does is that shows weakness. In my opinion, that shows weakness. Women do it too, but with men, keep your mouth shut and your eyes open, you know? Observe. You've got nothing to prove if you're truly a man. You know what I'm saying? Like, the blokes that think they're hard, that's exactly it. they think it, so they act it. Not that I'm saying that you should be, and I'm certainly not. I don't consider myself to be hard and all that, but that sense of discipline and passion, if you really had it, you wouldn't need to prove it, would you? You know? So that's point 3. Point 4, treat, I'll flip it the other way just to show the women that this ain't a sexist video. Men, treat your women with respect. Treat your fucking women with respect, because if you can't do that, how can you be a true man? How can you? Because they're not. They're women. They're graceful. They're fragile. Now, I don't mean weak, see? Once again, fragile associated with weak. The same way empathy is associated with weakness, and it really isn't. It's strength. Women are beautiful, graceful, loving, mothering creatures, and oh yeah, they can be evil only as much as men can, but as a man, a good man, you should always treat a good woman with respect, because they'll calm you down. They'll look after you in a way that you didn't even realise you could be looked after, if you let them. And they need looking after from you in a different way, in a way that only a male can look after a female. I know that women want to believe that they are as strong as men. The irony there, again, only my opinion, but the irony there is that I believe that women are actually stronger than men up here. Here, they're not. Physically, biologically, they're not. Up here they are. A real man needs a real woman beside them to guide them. So let them guide you. They will show you who you want to be, the kind of man that you want to be. They start, this is the difference, if they start to try and force you to become a certain type of man, then that's what they want you to be, not who you want you to be. See the difference? You will know the difference, you will feel the difference, because they won't force you, they'll guide you. Treat them with respect. And vice versa, women, treat your men with respect. Because all we want to do is make you feel like a queen. That's what we all want. We want a queen. They call it mankind, but most men aren't kind, and they want to be the king. But by having a queen, it makes you a king, doesn't it? You don't treat them like a queen, you're not a fucking king. See what I'm saying? So, moving on. I know this is a bit of a weird one for me. It's not quite on most of the subject matter and topics that I cover, but it's something that I haven't heard or seen be addressed by anyone, so I thought I would give it a go. As I say, it's based on what it is to be a man, what it means to be a man, how it feels to be a man. But that's an underlying basis to the, the primary, of which it's secondary. The primary is, as I said, shadow work. So that's what I'm about to get to. Okay, hang on. Right, sorry for the pause. I just needed a moment before I say this. Okay, so one of the main essences of shadow work is to voice a traumatic event that you've gone through. Now, I warn you, it's a bit dark, but then I know people have, maybe even yourself possibly, have gone through worse, and I'm using what I'm about to tell you as an example to enforce the last 2 points that I will make shortly after this. Okay. Yeah, right. Let's do it. Oh, before I start, I'll just say I encourage you to try this if you feel you can. But if you feel you can't, no shame and there's no blame in it at all. Okay? If it's of course it's going to be personal to you. But if it's personal to the level and private to the level where it would make you anxious or nauseous to present it the way that I am about to, you do not need to do it. Like, don't feel any obligation whatsoever. The only reason I can do this is I don't even have a reason. It's weird. I've always been able to just voice these things, especially to you, you who is watching, listening, because you wouldn't be watching or listening if there wasn't some sense of a connection. Just who I am, I suppose, just how I am. Yeah, I haven't told anyone really about this. I'm enjoying those. But yeah, okay. Alright, here we go. So I've mentioned before that I'm a victim of abuse, right? Now, it's not child abuse. This is what I mean. I know I know that others have had it a lot worse than this. I know that. Joy being one of them. Joy was, and I know she'll understand me mentioning it, but yeah, Joy was a victim of child abuse. But when I have mentioned before that I am a victim of abuse, it's a bit different, so I'll just lay it out quick. And it's relevant to where I'm going, okay? So stick with me if you can. Alright, so this is about 3 or 4 years ago now. I'm 29 now. I was broke as a joke. I lost my job. I've mentioned this before as well. I was a telesales agent, and I just couldn't do it. I was racking in loads of fucking dosh, which is why I stuck with it. That's why I did it. But I wasn't deceptive enough, and I kept telling the callers the truth, and that they were getting ripped off and stuff when they were. So yeah, lost my job. Joy's birthday was coming up. I had no money. I wanted to treat her. I went, sat on this field, trying to think of what I could do. Jobs were very scarce at this point. All of a sudden, this dog comes running up to me, this little poodle, followed by this bloke. He comes over. I could tell straight away he was maybe, I'd say, late 40s, and he was quite camp. Not that matters, but the reason I mention it is because it let my guard down. I now realise he was using that sensibility, the campness, to disarm me. Anyway, come over, said, "Hey, sorry about the dog and all that, you alright, you seem a bit lonely, like you're sitting on your own and stuff." I said, I was just honest, just said, "Well, I've lost my job and my girlfriend's birthday's coming up and all this." Yeah, long story short, it was like, "Okay, well, I've just moved down here, and I've got all these boxes, and I'll tell you what, if you want to give me a hand with the boxes in a couple of days, help me move in, I'll pay you a nice bit of dosh." At this point, I was quite desperate. Her birthday was only a couple of days away, so yeah, I jumped on the opportunity. I was like, "Yeah, sure." Gave me his address. I went round there a couple of days after meeting him, and invited me in. And yeah, he was moving in, and did have all these boxes and all that. And I went to start moving him. Right, let's crack on. Where do you want me to begin? He was like, "Well, sit down for a minute. Chill out. We'll sort them out in a minute and all that." And and he made himself a drink, and he made me a drink. And the irony is, before I went there, I told Joy, "I've got an offer for a bit of money, guy's a bit camp, but he seems alright," and all this. And the irony is, we were joking about it, like, she's saying to me, "Well, watch out, make sure he don't, if he's a bit camp, he probably fancies you, make sure he doesn't, drug your drink or whatever." Yeah, well, that's exactly what happened. I blamed myself for it. This is what I'm talking about with shame and blame. It stuck with me for a long time, because I chose to drink the drink. I didn't question it. I just thought, well, he's just, just being courteous. So yeah, he made me and himself a vodka and coke or something, and I noticed it had like this frothiness in the middle of it, but I just didn't think anything of it. So I drank this drink, and I sat down on the sofa, and I'm just chatting to him, just, "Oh, when did you move down? Where did you move down from?" and all this sort of thing. And next thing I know, I started feeling really nauseous and anxious, like I said before. And and I got quite dizzy. And he started sort of feeling me up, and that's the last thing I remember, and I passed out. yeah, when I come to, I was laying on his bed, so I can only presume he moved me. I think that's what happened. I might have gone and sat in his room before I passed out. It was something like that. Anyway, I passed out. When I come to, um, he was taking my trousers off and all this, and I couldn't move. I couldn't move. I was completely debilitated. Every time I tried to pick up my arms, they just felt like they were made of lead. Um, yeah, I could hardly even string a sentence together. So yeah, he started, you know, like he started giving me like oral sex, and I couldn't stop him, and I couldn't move to stop him, let alone speak. And then, he started climbing on top of me, and I knew that I had to push through it one way or another. And I managed to say, if you don't get the fuck off somehow, if you don't get the fuck off me right now, there's going to be blood. There's going to be trouble. Didn't stop him. I kept repeating it, and somehow I found the strength to. This is why I said look in my eyes, because it's all about the eyes. The amount of hideous situations I've got out of just by using my eyes. You don't need to use your fists. And I gave him such a look, and he jumped off of me, and somehow I found the capacity to get up. I jumped up, and I put clothes on, and I went to go out, and all the door was like padlocked and stuff. I was like, get me, open the fucking door right now, open the door, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, and so he opened it and I left. Yeah, it really fucked my head up, made me sort of suicidal for a while. And I didn't tell Joy for ages, because it felt like this is what I mean, this is what it does to you, and I'll bring it back to the point and points that I've already mentioned in a moment. If any of you men have gone through this, as I said, like, I consider child abuse to be worse, of course, but it's strange if this sort of thing happens when you're older, when you're a grown man. See, coming back to the point, because I was left with this feeling like it was my choice, and I should have acted and reacted quicker and better and stronger, and I felt such shame and blame. I kind of felt like I'd cheated on Joy. That's how deep the darkness of it went. So I didn't tell her for a long time. Yeah, it even makes you question your like sexuality and stuff. Like I don't give a shit. Like, I'd tell you straight. Forgive the pun. I'm a straight man. I always have been. And there was no joy for me in what happened, as you can probably pick up by my body language now, because I can hear myself. But it still does. It still makes you, if it's male and male, even if you're a child and it's like a child abuse thing, if it's a male male, or even female on female, it fucks your head up to such an extent where even like even though you hated every moment of it, it almost makes you question if you're gay and things like that. Yeah, I reported it to the police. They did fuck all. They said that there weren't enough evidence. It was just my word against his. At the same time, they said that they know this individual and he's done it before, so shows you how much you can fucking trust the police. They're all Freemasons anyway, most of them, and they're all under reptilian jurisdiction. But that's besides the point. They did fuck all, and at this point, I've never wanted to take a life in my life, and almost did. It turned very quickly from me wanting to take my own to me wanting to take his. But I knew that if I had, I'd be the first suspect because I had already reported it to the police, and I'd lose Joy. I saw him the other day, actually. He was walking along with the same poodle, and he walked past me down this alleyway, and my whole body started shaking with adrenaline, and my fists curled up so tight that I couldn't release them. And I stopped dead, and I turned around, and he'd stopped dead too, and he had this look on his face like he wanted to apologise, but then he just carried on walking. It does feel good getting that out, and I'm sorry because I know it's, hopefully it hasn't lowered your vibrations or anything. Obviously that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm simply trying to show you, and myself for that matter, the strength and the courage that ensues when you face your shadow. As I said, do it if you feel you can. Do it when you feel you can, or don't. You don't have to. There's no obligation, but it's liberating. It's liberating. It really is. Thank you for listening. Yeah, so I use that as an example to execute my last 2 points. So one of them being, again, men, look into my eyes. If anything even remotely close to that side of abuse, trauma, has been inflicted upon you, don't you dare fucking blame yourself. Don't you do it. It's not your fault. Women too, it is not your fault. Okay? You was prey to a predator. You're not now though, are you? Okay? As I said, I'm speaking more on in the sense of when a man does that to a man, because it messes with your masculinity. You see what I mean? You are you. Don't ever let what happened and who it was that made that happen to you dictate your sexuality, your sensuality, or your personality. Don't do it. That belongs to you, not them. Alright? You're not a victim. You're a fucking survivor. You're a warrior. You're a soldier. Women, you're a survivor. You're a warrioress. You're a soldieress. You're not a victim. It was out of your hands, but now you are in your hands. Okay? Long video, I apologise, but I'm trying to show you all the power of confession, the power of I mean, this is more I'm addressing trauma, you know, which is one side of shadow work. Another, of course, would be your regrets, and of course, believe you me, I've got many, but I'm trying to focus on this specifically to show all you that are watching and listening that it can be done, and once it's done you feel a lot stronger, a lot more stronger. And there is no shame or blame in whatever has happened to you, or even what you have done by your own hand, because it's not who you are now, and if it hadn't happened you wouldn't be who you are now. Do you think I'd be sorrow if that hadn't happened? I wouldn't. You know? Last point, 55 minutes in, my apologies. So we'll make it an hour then. Last point, coming back to what I said, you know, when I saw him recently. My opinion, men, again, look me in the eyes. There is, women too, but there is nothing more courageous or strong nothing more courageous or strong than defying your own wrath. Yeah? I don't want to go as far as to say forgiving, but it is really, isn't it? Nothing more courageous or strong than the act of forgiveness. That doesn't condone what happened, and it doesn't mean you agree with what happened, but don't let these fucking monsters turn you into one. And more importantly, don't let these fucking monsters take even more from you. You don't know what I wanted to do to him when I saw him the other day, but if I had done it, I would have lost even more than I lost before. See? That's what it takes to be a man. And that's not, I did it so that's not what I'm getting at. It fucking hurts. It hurts your pride. It really does, almost as much as the act itself. But if you can do that, you can do anything, can't you? If you can control that, you can control anything. It means you're in control, doesn't it? Not easy. Trust me, it's the right decision. It's the right decision. Are they worth your hand? Are they worth your courage? Are they worth your strength? It's not going to rewind time. They'll get what's coming to them. I know people say that to comfort themselves, but they do, they will. That's how this works. Call it karma, call it penance. They're not worth it. Don't have to forgive them. Don't ever forgive them. They're not worth your forgiveness either. But don't let them take from you any more than they already felt or feel they have. Be a man, because they're not. They never were and they never will be. Women, be a woman. Don't give them anything. Thank you to all of you, genuinely and sincerely, for listening. Bit different today. If you're still listening, you have no idea how much love, respect and appreciation I have for you. I love you all. See you soon.